Nikki.
Hey, Selena.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to Sweet Tea and TV, where I realized I wasn't really actually sure who's leading this one, technically. I guess it's both of us, huh?
It's both of us. I have your name next to the intro and me next to the recap.
I'm winging it. Let's see how I do. Welcome.
Hey.
To Season 7, Extra Sugar. Number 1, first Extra Sugar. How am I doing so far?
Great. Fantastic.
So what we're doing today is we are returning to the days of yore. Go back with me, if you will, to the year. It's 2022. We're in Lawrenceville, sitting there crying over audio that's not working.
Oh.
Real tears shed, but also laughter, tinkling laughter, tinkling, twinkling.
Mostly tears.
Let's twinkle. Let's not tinkle. And
talk long enough, I'm going to have to.
And then you can use this as I'm like holding my fingers really tightly because I'm trying to be off the cuff. And also at this time we had a different setup, a different run of show, if you will. Maybe one will say that, where we analyzed every moment of the show. We took it scene by scene. We're not going to do that though. What we are going to do though is spend this entire episode talking about the series finale. You want to know why we're doing that? Because why? Because that needs to be talked about.
It does.
We need to give it some attention. I don't know it's going to be good attention, but it will be attention. And it will also, when you left us on Monday at the end of our episode, we talked a little bit about how some listeners have reached out and asked for a little bit more in-depth knowledge, reaction, thoughts. I don't know we can bring knowledge, but we can bring something.
We bring thoughts and reactions.
Yeah.
And opinions.
So with all of that in mind, hopefully I said anything that was coherent. Would you like to jump into what we were offered by the series finale, excuse me?
It's so hard. Yeah, you can say both. It's season and series.
Yes.
So the Designing Women Online Selena mashup of this episode, Gone with the Whim, is buckle up for a two-parter, y'all, that begins with sugar bakers in bad financial shape. Classic sugar bakers. BJ gets them a job redecorating a house once purposely made to replicate the antebellum Terra Mansion in Gone with the Wind. But the clients aren't just awful. They're trying to take over Poteet Industries and sugar bakers. Shock and awe. So what can our gals and Anthony do? Spend the last 30 minutes taking turns in a fever dream where each one of them gets their turn as Scarlett O'Hara again. Classic. The air date on this one was May 24th, 1993, and we're going to call it, frankly, my dear, it's over. Part 1 was written by David Steinberg, Robert Horn, and Daniel Margosis. Part 2 was written by Emily Levine, Daniel Margosis, and Robert Horn. It was directed by David Steinberg. I have 2 pieces of trivia. Thanks to IMDb. The house featured looks more like the home of the Wilkes family, 12 Oaks, rather than Terra, since 12 Oaks is the one with the magnificent staircase. I don't know if this...
Right on.
Okay. It's been like a lifetime ago since I actually saw Gone with the Wind, so I would not know that enough to know that.
Hot moment.
It's just so long.
It's long. About
So
4 hours.
Anything that's 2 VHSs, I'm probably not going to, which is what I remember about Gone with the Wind. I'm probably not going to watch that.
Threw your age out there.
And then in the very opening sequence, you can super clearly see a boom mic in the shot, which that sort of stuff I just love. I did confirm that.
Oh, totally.
Love. Mm-hmm. So I will kick us off with our top 3 general reactions / stray observations. And by I will kick us off, I mean, I will say, Selena, do you have something you want to share?
The best kickoff.
The best kickoff is punting to you.
Well, I'm going to do, we're returning to the days of yore, and days of yore means me having a whole intro before I even get to something. So I got one.
Here we go.
No, but before we're getting to the first reaction, I actually owe an errata. Nope. Is that right? No.
Errata would be plural. Erratum.
Erratum. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Oh, good. I was like, did I just
Erotica?
say erotic? I'm like, what did I say happened?
What's going to happen here?
I've only got one errata. So, anyways, I wanted to give one
Give it.
for something I said last season. So looking at IMDb, I thought we got a cliffhanger ending. And at some point I said that happened and we don't. As much as I've watched Designing Women, I don't think I had ever seen the finale until
I've never seen this.
Yeah. So I admit that I am woefully ignorant of its ending. That is until now. Anyway, so I had said it was left on a cliffhanger, but it's really not. It's actually like an okay end. We get some sense of place.
They do resolve the major challenge they were having through the episode.
Right. But now that you also revealed in our season opener the fact that they didn't really know, or just the cast didn't know.
The cast didn't know.
Okay, then that's fine. Then it's like,
well, I don't know if the writers knew.
So then you think about the writers. So let's just play that out real quickly.
Let's do it.
If they knew, if they knew.
If you knew, I knew that they knew.
Well, Selena, if you knew anything right now, you would shut up. But no, if they didn't know and they ended it and tied it up in a neat bow, then they don't get cliffhangers. So we're still back at square one at like weird decision. Anyways, all that to say, my first general reaction is that I think it's awfully strange that LBT and Pam Norris weren't involved in this finale.
I'll definitely give you that. Definitely agree with that.
So I've already talked about how you can
feels like they deserve a chance to at least close it out.
Right. And especially, and I just get the sense that probably LBT is someone who grew up watching Gone with the Wind, and we know she likes classic film and everything. And so for her to not have her stamp on this, that just feels weird. I wonder if somehow in the background she was involved. Maybe maybe just doesn't take the writer's credit. I'm pretty sure I even read an interview with her where she talked about the fact that she would sometimes wind up coming in and rewriting things and still give people the writing credit.
I can't decide how I feel about that.
There's a lot. You could take that many ways. LBT, come on the show.
Come talk to us.
It's all I want.
It's nearly time for her to come talk to us because we are nearly done here. We can't drag this out much longer, LBT. Let's get it on the calendar.
What about you?
I had two general reactions. Basically, it just seems fitting that we're going out on financial troubles for sugar bakers. Like I said this in the episode 1. It just fits. It just fits. That's the overwhelming tension this entire series, is that it's mismanaged business or something, but they never have money, and then sometimes they do. So it felt like, to the point you were just making, some sense of completionism. And then my other general reaction was, and I said this again also in the first episode, it was just high camp. I feel like it fit in well with the season in terms of the over-the-topness, the extraness. Also fitting that we had a fever dream episode, because I feel like we get one of those every few seasons. They never land quite the way we want them to, but it's a designing women, age-old thing that happens. So it definitely fit well with the season. It just didn't feel like the thing I wanted this entire journey to end on. And that's, as I was watching the episode, that's all I could keep thinking.
So I think I'm just going to tack in, because your reaction is one of mine. And I did like that on the bright side, they gave fans some satisfaction of just knowing that Our Ladies and Anthony would continue on, So I thought that aspect was nice. Otherwise, though, it's the same thing. I was like, oh, well, there is some, if you like it to be circular, here we are on that other side of the circle.
Yeah.
What about your final reaction? Or
that was it.
Oh, okay.
That's all for me.
I don't know why I keep thinking everything's in threes right now.
Because it's supposed to be. I just don't always have 3.
Totally understand that. I think, again, you've already, the daydreaming thing, right? So for me, what really stood out was this idea that, yes, it's something that's been used, but LBT would usually do it in like a mid-season slump, not at a pivotal point in the season, or in this case, a pivotal point in the series. So because of that decision, most of the last moments we have with the cast are really just them rehashing the same scenario 6 different times.
With a little bit of their own spin on it, but also...
Why?
Oh. Yeah. I was going to say circular, just kept circling the drain on this one particular topic.
Yeah, we did that.
We did a lot of that. I had one stray I wanted to mention, which is that there were a lot of cut lines in this episode. And I think that many of them were cut because, I imagine, because they were very racial in nature, because they revolved around Anthony and this role that he played. I think that... I said this in the first episode, that I think they made him very self-aware and made him sort of like the conscience for the cast, which I think was a very smart choice for Anthony's character. I think it's unfortunate he had to do that with this particular group of people, because I thought they knew each other that well, that they would know that Anthony wouldn't quite feel the same way in Tara or 12 Oaks that they do. But he got to play that part. So I appreciated that, but I think watching it now, it is a little bit cringy because it's almost a little too on the nose. Like, it feels like in society today, some of the things they were saying are almost a little uncomfortable. But Bernice in particular had a couple of things that when you put the things that she says as Bernice in the late 80s and early 90s next to Bernice dressed like a woman from the Civil War, it gets a little uncomfortable. But I do think also they cut some lines that made it feel a little more comfortable, because she said some really off-color things where you're like, where is this going? Like, why is she saying that? Or why is she treating him that way? But there was one at the during Julia's turn, so I think it was at the beginning of Scarlet, Anthony delivers the cheese, and this part was cut. I'll have some, Mandingo, and I'll meet you down at the stables in 2 hours. Widow Clifton, I've done told you 1,000 times. Pappy, don't play that. I'll give you the Confederate bonds and your freedom. I'll pass. And then she starts singing, black man, where did you go to? And it just drew the through line between the other come-ons that she had been giving him through the episode. Because without that, you never actually have her like offering herself to him. And I just felt like that was such a shame, because she made all these off-color, inappropriate advances to him through the episode, but you don't really know why. We've had this like attraction on Bernice's side to Anthony throughout this season, so it kind of makes sense, but it just felt like a really big gap in the episode. And when I looked back at the script, I was like, oh, her character feels like it would have landed better with that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I also had a stray, just one.
Just the one.
Which is, Kiki wanted to take out the stairs and put in an escalator. That's just stupid. Why wouldn't you put in an elevator and keep the stairs? Like, I can understand like not wanting to get things up a staircase, but like, it's just make it make sense.
Kiki wanted everything super modern, I guess. She wanted the visual of a staircase,
shopping
but
mall,
high tech. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a lot of weird decisions. How about some things that we liked about this episode?
So, for as hard as I've been on this episode, I have several likes.
Wonderful.
Way more than 3. I'll make up my time saved on the other things with what I liked.
Okay.
Patrick Warburton, I already said it. He is just a delight. I loved having him pop up here again just for the sheer delightfulness of it. I have thoughts about that, but just him in general brings color and lights. I loved talked about the self-awareness from Anthony, but I really loved this line. As far as I'm concerned, that movie was about a bunch of rich snobs who lose everything and still cannot get along without 3 black people to help them into their underwear. Perfection, right?
It's in my likes as well.
And then Julia had a couple moments I liked when she slid down the banister.
Yep.
That was glorious.
Yep.
And I also liked that we got a Julia-style rant when she was in the form of Scarlet against Rhett and telling him she's not his little woman. I appreciated that.
So I was on the track of Craig. I just think that Anthony, Bernice, and Craig, for me, saved this episode.
Yeah.
They were its only saving grace, I think. And I think the show knew it too, which is why we get Bernice's fantasy dead last with Anthony like as a Rhett and sweeping her up the staircase. For me, that was chef's freaking kiss. Like, that's how I would have taken this one out as well if this was the decision that was going to be made in all of this weirdness. So it's like the show knew that those are the 2 best characters, you know. I also liked how the show, or the episode rather, flips Gone with the Wind on its head. So you mentioned the Anthony thing, Etienne. When she takes her turn as Scarlet and flips it and slaps the crap out of Carlene, who is playing a prissy type, you know, prissy who does not know how to birth babies, which is probably one of the harder parts of the entire movie, of the original movie, to watch. To see them flip that around, I actually thought was pretty genius. And I can't think of a more earned slap than that one, probably, except for poor Carlene, I guess.
She needed to be taken down a notch, though. She had ratcheted up a little bit. She had short-circuited. She needed a reset.
I feel like I short circuit sometimes. Are you ready to play that out on me and smack me around?
Is it time?
I do also just want to say that you already said it, but Julia sliding down that banister was literally everything. And then my last like is everyone keeps calling Kiki the wrong name, cuckoo, cocky, and then right on cue, Craig walks in and calls her khaki. I don't even know where any, and he's like not even trying. They're all being rude, and he's just
khaki.
Dumb. And it's just like khaki.
And it like didn't bother her when he said it, because for the whole episode she let him get away with everything. No. You, but with more stuffing. He was delightful. That was one of my likes too.
100%.
I also appreciated BJ's updated perspective on Southern Pride, combined with Anthony's reality check on how Gone with the Wind isn't the greatest touchstone. So BJ says, for crying out loud, Julia, wake up and smell the magnolias. It's the 90s. Forget about Gone with the Wind. You want Southern Pride? Don't we have Ann Richards? Don't we have Rosalind Carter? Rest in peace. And then Bernice throws in, don't we have Jimmy Dean sausages? Like, there's plenty for us to appreciate that doesn't have to be antebellum South. And then Anthony says, that's just fine for you, Julia, but in the old South, you would be sashaying around this ballroom eating good food and wearing beautiful clothes. Me, I'd be toting that barge and lifting that bale with my roommate, Kunta Kinte. So I appreciated, to your point, sort of turning the movie on its head, but also the whole concept, really calling it for what it is. I liked. And then the last like I had was Julia's physical comedy. So coming down the banister, but also at the end, when she comes in ranting about the house and found Kiki working at her desk, she takes this very slow walk back, processing what she's just seen when she finally turns and sees it's Kiki at her desk. That was so delightful. And why didn't we get more physical humor from her throughout this series? Because it was so understated, but so beautiful. She just does the slow walk back, like, wait a minute, things are processing for me.
You know, and I think like maybe that's some of her cabaret coming out. Like it's all so, I don't know. It's the same way with her voice is very melodic, and she's just a performer.
It's all very artistic and intentional. So that was my last like. You want to move to things we didn't like that we haven't already talked about?
No, I'm like, I think we've probably covered most of these, but which is why I won't mention for the millionth time. Just kidding, I will. Please, 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 no fever dreams, no random musicals, no daydream episodes. Just stop it, stop it, stop it. If you're having to cover that kind of ground because you have that many episodes, you have too many episodes, you know? I like.
You hear that, CBS people?
Just go do your creativity somewhere else. Also, I guess I could take myself somewhere else. For the person that's like, this person is an a-hole. Yes, I am. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, this is other stuff we've talked about. I'm just going to say, just tacking on to the whole antebellum thing, I just a point that I have been thinking about watching this one, even if maybe they did it to try and set up the punch of his jokes and the different things that they did, again, to do that counterbalancing. But this is like a real thing. And I just want to say for the record, I just don't think we can set aside the enslavement of an entire race because there were some like nice dresses and stuff. You know, call me a stickler. Call me one. Call me one, Nikki.
I wouldn't dare. Because I'm scared of you.
You have a very scary face for someone who is 5 feet tall. So Mary Jo and Julia at it again. That watering hole just dried up for me a long time ago. And I just didn't enjoy it. And it also just kind of made me sad. I don't want to see characters I like fighting.
You know, I think at some point, and now that I'm on the spot, I'm going to have trouble remembering it. But at some point they came toe to toe. And it was almost validating because it was a completion of Mary Jo's character arc where she started very timid, never would push back on anyone, much less Julia. And then she came around and at some point held her ground. I think it was season 6, but in one of the episodes, she sort of held her ground. That felt validating and like completionist in some way. This season, it felt like to no end. Like there was nothing we were working toward.
Right. Just circular.
It's just circular and for no reason, because there were plenty of other potential sources of tension that could have taken place that didn't need to be like, why wasn't BJ? I understand they learned a lesson with Allison in making her wholly unlikable, but why wasn't there more tension built up with BJ? You said earlier maybe they were setting her and Julia up as foils, but they moved away from that. That might have felt more rewarding than watching these two old friends rehash what feels like issues that should have been set aside a long time ago, like Mary Jo's role in the business, or Julia can be obnoxious and not give you space to have an opinion. Those feel like things that should have been resolved a long time ago, and or this friendship maybe just isn't healthy for either one of you anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's sad.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you kind of, and that happens with friendships sometimes. And I don't like to see that happen.
It's not a good time. Certainly not for the last season of a show.
Right. I did have one more dislike, which is like, where was Carlene's fantasy?
Well, she got to be in Etienne's.
I just think
she got to be high strung in all of them.
Right. That's just like more part and parcel to this idea that like what did she do wrong? She was the best thing that got brought into season 6, and they were you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna stick her in a closet somewhere.
I would love to know the behind the scenes on that. I didn't come across anything in my research for this season, but there was definitely a specific choice made to downplay her this season.
Totally.
I had just a couple of things I wanted to mention that I didn't like. And I don't know if it's so much I didn't like. I want to get your take on this. So first of all, did Julia miss the fact that this mansion was a recreation of Tara, not an original piece of Atlanta history that needed to be preserved?
Oh, that's really fair point.
I was just like, this isn't even real. They built it in 1972. Like, what are you so worked up about? That's so crazy.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I feel like it would have been much better if they'd actually chosen an old house.
Plot hole.
It was so weird. And then Patrick Warburton as Rhett. So again, think he's delightful. Love he was in this season multiple times. Certainly ending the series with him was great. But why would you pick him as a huge character in this story that we've talked about over and over again throughout this series, and it's a huge touchstone in Southern history? Pick Patrick Warburton, the random guy Mary Jo dated for half of the season or whatever.
Instead of Anthony?
Instead of Anthony. That's a good point. I was thinking one of the old boyfriends would come back. I was thinking,
why not Anthony?
Why not Anthony? That's a good point. I think I had in my head, because he had that final Rhett. It's a good point.
I mean, it's possible.
Why not Anthony?
Why not Anthony?
Add it to the Justice for Anthony list.
So I think, okay, there's a couple of reasons it could be. One is that
because they were like me, like, oh yeah, why not Anthony?
Maybe. I guess it would be weird to see him in like this romantic situation over and over again when we know that he's supposed to be with ATN, you know?
Oh, so I thought you were going to say Bernice.
And Bernice. He's got both ladies. But so like there's that part of it. I think to your point, like how I think you were close to making this point. That did not come out how I meant for it to. Your mind was processing. Let me shut up before I just make it sound worse than
I'm going to save that and play that back for myself once. Sometimes that's the face you're giving me is I feel like you're getting close to a point, and if I just hang on long enough, we'll get there.
We both give it, so don't worry. But how are we supposed to do those counterbalancing later on remarks and kind of poke fun at, I mean, I don't know that that's a watering well you want to go to a lot, like slavery. But like Anthony is the one from the cast who can do that.
Yeah.
So I can see it from that point as well. But I just, as you were talking, I was like, Anthony, we just brought in this random guy who shows up this season.
It was delightful. I can't say that enough.
Hey, he's good looking. Let's just bring him in.
Yeah.
He's tall. That's the only requirements, right?
Right.
So
it was just so weird. We've had this like on and off with various men throughout the series. And to go to this guy was strange, but he was there, I guess. And I guess if they were just thinking about what was top of mind.
Yeah. I was surprised to see him in the finale. I was like, oh, we're bringing him back.
And in a big role.
Right.
I mean, he had like lots of lines.
I actually had like a passing thought. I was like, is he dating someone?
Mm.
You know?
Oh, I looked into him. I ended up down a rabbit hole. He's been married a really long time.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like a lot of times.
No,
I don't know why.
I think just to one person. And I want to say it was the early 90s when he got married, but I don't remember that right off the top of my head. So yeah. Patrick Warburton.
It's like you wanted to do a sidebar, didn't you?
I love him so much. And then my last, and this is a true didn't like, is just the overwhelming feeling I had through the entire episode of this. This is the finale. I don't think I'm going to be honest. I didn't remember you saying that it ended on a cliffhanger. I remember it ending. I remember the discussion being it ended in an unsatisfactory way. I
wasn't worried about you being the particular one who might eventually reach out to me and tell me how I was wrong.
Yeah. It wasn't going to be me. You were safe. You're safe in my house.
Not safe. Which is why I decided to add something at the top. So I could also be like, please see my eroticism.
Oh, no. So that's it.
You ready? Bye.
And on that, we're done.
All right. You ready to rate this sucker?
I will have you know, I'm back on track with the rating scale. I gave it out of 5.
Wait. It's even better. Did you have it out of 10 for this one?
No. It was out of 5. I just messed up on the first one. I don't know.
10, 5, whatever. Why did I choose 5? You know? Why didn't I choose 10?
I ask that all the time. Why?
Why, Selena?
You want to make an erratum right now?
As long as we're not making an eroticism. Because I'm going to have to be paid for that. The freebies are off the table.
And I'm in my thrifty era, so I can't pay for much. So let's keep it off the table for now. Let's keep this professional. Okay. So my rating scale is Barbie's Terra Dream Houses.
Okay.
I gave it a, wow, which feels really generous at this point, 3.5 out of 5.
You don't say.
It was just impossible to get beyond the fact that this was the series finale. It was an okay episode. For everything I've said, I honestly think so many of my criticisms are colored by the fact that it's the series finale and it's just so deeply unsatisfying. On second watch, I did appreciate the high campness of it. I appreciated the silliness of it. I did appreciate that they finally gave us a little Gone with the Wind flavor. After having laid the groundwork for so long, I appreciated that they presented both sides of that situation and the complicated history of that movie and the way different people take it. I appreciated all that. Mm-hmm. That said, it's just so hard to get past. This is not series finale worthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, series finales are tough. You can't please everyone, and if you try, you please no one.
That's true.
So, and I mean...
they pleased not me. I can say that.
I, have a ton of shows that I loved and hated the series finale. Mm-hmm. And there's just very few. I have very few in their tops. Parenthood, The Office. But by and large, they're usually disaster zones. I think people almost want them to be disaster zones just so they can talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I also gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which is why you caught me looking at you that way.
I figured.
But
I put the pieces together.
I thought
you could see the point coming together in my head. I landed the plane eventually.
So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 hostile takeovers. And just going back to that point of like how series finales are hard, designing women in particular already in a tough spot. First they lose Delta, then they lose Jean, 2 back-to-back casting reshuffles. I don't know anyone gets out of that unscathed. We've talked about series finales before, so I don't think we have to revisit that too in-depthly. But while I don't think that this was perfectly successful, there were some really funny moments. And so that's probably where also I'm looking at this as a pretty high score.
Right.
I think that they deserve some credit for that. So give them credit. Give them some
credit. Can I ask, did you have a favorite Scarlett?
Oh, you know what? I don't, I think I liked a little something that everyone brought to the table.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that BJ for me was more of like this feminist Scarlett. I actually thought I was expecting Dixie to be a little bit more like that. I just used her real name there. Usual.
What's she gonna do?
Julia
Yell at you?
to be more like that. I don't think Mary Jo's was very almost like a Scarlett, like just very interested in Rhett.
Yeah. Which just like, really?
I was like, are they dating? What's happening here? And I think that the most satisfying one would be Etienne.
I thought I was going to jump in for you and say it, but
Every time I'm just going to say Auntie M. Etienne, but I don't think I'm learning my lesson if I have to say both.
Well, right. That's true. Was it the most satifying because of the slap? You just really want to slap somebody?
Just the turn. I think.
Okay, so
and
not
getting to
the slap.
spend some time with Cheryl.
Yeah.
Because she also left us for a little bit there, I think.
Oh,
towards
like,
the end.
yeah.
I think it's because she was already doing something else.
Seems right.
She was
I
moving
agree.
on.
I think Cheryl Lee Ralph's was my favorite.
Yeah.
And it was the briefest. It was very short
That's also good.
compared to the other ones.
Wrap it up.
We spent a lot of time with Julia and Mary Jo.
Yeah.
And to your point, it was the same 3 minutes.
Actually, now that we're talking about this, hers might have been the most dead on Scarlett. Because she was really like Scarlett's very haughty. Haughty.
Haughty.
I will never get this word right. What a hottie. You know what I'm saying? Well, that too. She was a hottie.
Yeah, hottie's okay.
So it's
Hottie. There's no good way to say that word. It's easier to read it.
very hottie.
Yeah, she was good.
So do we want to jump back into references for the first time in a long time?
Yeah.
90s
I feel like mine's going to be
things?
not satisfying. Because it was
Is
like,
that why we took it out?
yeah, probably. Carlene mentioned Pac-Man after Mr. Kearney visited Chicago. That's something.
I played Pac-Man in the 90s. I don't think it came out in the 90s.
No, it definitely didn't.
70s,
At some
maybe?
point, we had called this 90s or dated references.
That's true. We definitely did.
We definitely did.
We did that.
Did. Yeah, no, I watched the episode and I just kept trying to think of references because you don't think about it that way anymore.
Tell you what, Nikki, I was either finding them in my notes or I wasn't going back.
Never again. Frankly, my dear, never watching that again.
That's not going to happen. Is that, did
That's
you
it.
have, okay. I had Sprint. Bernice quotes her late husband, without friends, you don't need Sprint.
That's true.
There you go. That is
Truer words
wisdom.
never have been spoken.
Kiki's decor style, very of the moment.
Sure.
And the show's already told us they're not into that. You know, that's not Southern style.
Yeah.
Where's the paisley?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which could also go on a shirt next to the Sprint shirt. Where's the paisley? That's how it would be said. Did that sound nice and Southern? Speaking of Southern,
We digress.
sorry, did you like that wheezing? I'm just slowly turning into my grandma. Go on. Southern things.
I mean, Gone with the Wind.
I'm not going to laugh anymore. So I'll stop wheezing. Yes, Gone with the Wind.
Obviously. There was also a Battle of Appomattox reference, which I feel like is a little bit of a Civil War deep cut. So that was amidst the infighting after Julia's daydream about Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
Straight from Wikipedia because
Oh, wait. Hold on. Let's see if I
7th
can
grade
get it.
civics. Okay.
Let's see if I can get it. It was either the beginning of the war or the end of the war.
It was either.
Okay. So it is one of them.
It is one of the two.
Shoot. I wanted to say the end.
You would be correct. It was the final engagement of Confederate General-in-Chief Robert E. Lee and his Army of Northern Virginia before they surrendered to the Union Army of the Potomac under the commanding general of the United States Army, Ulysses S. Grant.
But that was going to be my longer version if you had let me get to it.
Oh, I know. I needed to say something because I did the research. So I needed to be the one to say something. You had already stolen the
Did you
fact from
see
me.
how my Georgia history, though, was paying off?
That's what was, I was like, somewhere in like 7th grade civics. It's in there. I know.
4th grade, 8th grade. I don't know what they do now in the present times, but in the before times, you had to take it in 4th and 8th grade. So
It's very confusing to me because I was in North Carolina in 4th grade and then in Georgia in 8th grade. So I know like this much about North Carolina history and this much about Georgia history.
that's lovely that you know
Is it?
both.
I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is y'all in the South, they spend a lot of time on the Civil War. That's what you need to know.
It's kind of our thing. It's what we're known for.
It's a real loser's mentality. You just really got to keep talking about it.
History repeats itself if you do not
Can't
live
talk
in
about
it.
the one. Can't stop talking about the one who got away. We only make light because this is where we live. I don't know.
We're stuck here. I don't know what to do about
We're just stuck. The making of an exact replica of Tara. I just want to say that sounds like something that would have happened, and even then.
Fair enough.
And then
I'll allow it.
You mentioned this earlier, but we get Ann Richards and Rosalind Carter. And I just want to say for the record that I did not know who Ann Richards was. Did you?
No.
Did
I
you?
Googled her and now I've forgotten.
Okay, perfect. I've got this one written down.
Perfect. She's like a Texas lady?
Yes. 45th governor of Texas 91 to 95. She reformed the Texas prison system, established a substance abuse program for inmates, reduced the number of violent offenders released, and increased prison space to deal with the growing prison population. Now, the one thing I'm going to say that got lost in the sauce there is like, maybe we should be addressing why the prison population is
I was going to
growing.
say, what's Texas's deal? I mean,
Let me say, what is Texas's deal? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, that seems like a lot of focus on incarceration.
I also want to say, Dad, if you ever get to this reference, I want you to see how they called this. Oh no, I called it a Southern. No, they said Southern whatever, something Southern icons.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They definitely owned
Ann
her.
Richards from Texas, the South, Southern. I have the microphone right now. End of debate, except for every person in Texas who wants to strangle me right now.
They are their own country.
Anyone, that's what they would say. So, you know what? I really don't care. Why do I keep fighting that fight? You be whoever you want to be. Be part of the South. Don't be part of the South. I just live here. And I'm in Atlanta.
I
So
have
most people
podcasts
don't
about the
even consider that part of the South either. I digress. Did you have other Southern references?
I did not.
Okay. Did you see me just break?
I did.
Okay.
And I almost slapped you. It almost happened. It was close. My hand was coming and I just kept pushing it down.
Get me back in line.
Are we ready for references we need to talk about? Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Because I have a good through line.
Thank God, because I have zero.
I have a good through line because you were just talking about Ann Richards and her
Southern
platform of incarceration. To both. My reference is Hooskow. So Anthony says this to Mr. Kearney right at the end. This was to the Hooskow. I don't know, something like that. That doesn't seem right, but he says something about the Hooskow. Anyway, I heard that word and I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's an informal term for jail.
Oh.
This one to the Hooskow, I think is what that quote was supposed to be. It's an informal term for jail. It's an interpretation of the Spanish term, I'm going to guess it's juzgado, which means court of justice tribunal. Hooskow was first used out west as an interpretation of that Spanish term. So when you hear Hooskow, that means jail.
Oh. I thought you meant like, whose cow is this?
That too. Jail. Are we done with this series finale?
That's it. Can you sound a little bit happier though?
Well, because I'm ready to talk to about Miss Bonnie Jean Poteet, which is our next episode.
Oh, okay.
You know I like to do the thing and move on. So like if we covered all the necessary, are we ready to go?
I want to rip off the Band-Aid and eat some pimento cheese.
This is lunch is between us.
Betwixt.
So this is between us and lunch. Betwixt.
Between and betwixt.
Betwast. So come back Monday for our first character deep dive of season 7, all about Miss BJ Poteet. We'd love everyone to follow along with us and engage. Instagram and Facebook at SweetTNTV. We're on TikTok, YouTube. You can email us sweetTTVpod@gmail.com, and our website is www.sweetttv.com. And then you can support the show several ways on the website. Several ways. As I started talking, I realized we don't usually do this for extra sugar, so I lost. I petered out.
It's all good. It's all good.
Pizzaed out.
Well, you know what?
Frankly, my dear.
Well, you know what that means.
What does it mean, Selena?
It means it's the first episode and I've forgotten where I am and what I'm doing and I'm very hungry. So we'll see you around the bend.
Bye.